Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdcast Dave, and today I'm joined by this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted, how are you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
Doing awesome, man. How are you?
Hanging in there. The headache's been attacking me all day, and despite my best efforts and insertion of chocolate and caffeine and a nap, nothing seemed to really make it go away. So
Do
I'm
you
gonna.
do you think it's a psychic attack from maybe a local cult or group
It
of
could
cultists?
very well be an attack from a cult. Uh, but I'm struggling through as best as possible. I'll keep a smile on my face and crash in an hour or so. Um,
You are much more resilient than me. I do not bear well with illness and getting things done, especially headaches. I am the biggest baby.
I have my moments where I fall into that as well, but when stuff needs to get done, you just get it done, and I'll suffer later. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but as you brought up, tonight we're going to be talking about cults, and I pulled out my trusty monster manual in the very back. You can jump right to page 345 or head over to D&D Beyond and look up cult. But you got cultist and cult fanatic as like your base entry into, hey, I want to work with stuff that's cult related. you know
Yeah, one is like, are you just kind of a rope rack? And the other is little bit of magical power.
it's a challenge eighth is the cultist, and a challenge two is your cult fanatic. Um, and I know I use these guys in the Narcitis game that I ran, years ago. These guys being like your first like serious you know threat, if you will.
Well, it kind of started right off the bat with blood cultists, and like you sprinkled in a couple blood cultists, and we were like off and running.
Yeah, yeah.
We were determined to get to hell and destroy their their demon god. From I think from fairly early on, we
Behold.
totally took the oh yeah, Narcitus. He's such a lovely chap. We
So,
took the hook on that one pretty hard, and we're like, we must root out these evil blood cultists, and really made it our mission there in Griffin Gaff.
yeah, and a lot of fun things happened over 4 year plus game. So like it's entirely possible to have a you know cults be the main theme, depending upon how much you want to spice up and spruce up the stat blocks that are already there.
Well, I mean, yes and no as far as sprucing up. Like cultists are great and cults are great because like that's the entry point to like bigger, badder, eviler things in a campaign setting, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the setup. That's the layup to like, okay, like eventually we're gonna have to deal with Cthulhu, right? Trying to stick his big tentacly ass through a
Cthulhu? Yeah.
yeah, through a gate into our world, into a portal, right? So like early on, it's just like your run of the mill cultists, and they're weak enemies, but it's perfect for first level characters, and but it's like the foreshadowing to what can come later, right? So you have these powerful entities that these cults form around, and then from there, they can, they can start bringing in, maybe not Cthulhu right away, but some of the other creatures, right? So it's like the threat for your cultists starts off with maybe they're kidnapping people, maybe they're sacrificing people, but they're kind of chumps and easy to take out. Even with their the the fanatic, which is a little bit tougher but not a whole lot. Like your player is going to quickly outgrow those challenges. But it becomes more about like, well, what are they doing? What kind of evil things are they trying to bring into the world? So it's always like trying to root them out and stamp them out and find them before they can do like the real damage by like opening portals and sacrificing people. And then not everyone has to have the cultist stat block. Like you said, you can put some more powerful NPCs in there. Like in your game, you use different monsters like the blood god Narcitus was super influential when it came to some of the darker evil humanoids, or at least those humanoids were evil and dark. Maybe because they worship Narcitus. I don't know which came first, chicken or the egg, right? Um, so so there was definitely ways to elevate the threats, but then there's also things that you can do that don't threaten the characters physically so much or mechanically so much, where it's like, oh, what if you were to replace a couple of those cultist stat blocks with, I don't know, a noble or two, right? Like, yeah, you can beat the snot out of them, no problem, and murder them, but at the end of the day, you're murdering a noble. So unless you can prove that they were actually, part of this cult or leading this cult or doing wrongdoings, you're kind of stuck, right? With any repercussions. So there can definitely be like some political aspects and maneuvering to it.
That's really going to depend highly upon what kind of game your players and the PCs are actually looking to engage with. I know, once you begin going down a political road, it can get very wonky very fast, and the characters might have to just GTFO rather than deal with the repercussions. And then there's this open plot thread out there that they have a hand in, and what are you going to do? Are you going to leave it open? Are you going to try and sneak back in with disguises, or is this like, what happens, and you move on to a whole another plot thread?
Well, honestly, in your game, like you introduced some artifacts that were connected to Narcitus. Um, and like that was like a huge thing for the cult and for his followers. Like they were trying to get these artifacts to do not nice stuff with. I came in possession of one, and I foolishly wielded it in combat, which caused a saving throw, which caused me to murder someone, which led to our first in-game trial, not by combat, but in a courtroom where the rest of the players had to mount a defense um, and be my barristers, which is scary if you know our fellow gaming group members, one of which is my brother. And have Uthengard not get convicted of murder. I mean, it turns out the person that he murdered wasn't really nice, but you know, as in the real world and fantasy games, I mean, you probably shouldn't murder bad people either. In the lawful society, right? And under the context of civilization, we should be probably bringing them to justice and not just stabbing them to death.
Yeah, and there were ramifications for the actions that were done, and I do, I tried to put some things out there to have some moral quandaries and to see, like, okay, well, this happened, and what is that going to do? um you know it's fun to challenge the players at the table as well as the characters that they're playing, to kind of see what they're up to. Now, not every player at your table is going to be okay with possession, and not every player is going to be okay with you taking narrative control and doing something that's not heroic with their character. Now, I've been playing with Dave long enough that you know he's into the story, and while he's not thrilled that I did this thing, it was still like, okay, let's see where the story goes. um so you do have to be cautious when you're doing this. But the great thing that you have, when you begin using that cult paintbrush, is a robe and an amulet can literally be put on any humanoid stat block that you can find. Okay, this dude is now a cultist. Literally just on the other page, there's a berserker. Well, is there a reason why you could not have a berserker stat block? That's part of the group, that this dude is just gonna like rage all over the party. No, I mean, if you can find a reason that that dude is there, sure, go for it. Could it be because he drank the crazy wine that is sending them into a rage? That works perfect for me. Maybe there's another reason. Maybe there's a spell that the cult fanatic put on them. Who knows? But however you want to make things work, it's fantastic. And as you gain levels, as the characters gain levels, there's plenty of humanoid stat blocks that you can use. And that's without having to, tweak or modify anything that's there. So it's really easy to go down that road, regardless of whether you're looking to go, combat heavy or political heavy. There's plenty of choices.
Yeah, I mean, even like with the stuff we do with my character, like there, it was still predicated on choices that I made. Like I chose to use this artifact that I knew wasn't good, and the consequence was making a saving throw and then dealing with what happens with those saving throws. And yeah, it also became like a subplot for a while, like the relationship between the dagger and certain people in the party. It became like this other NPC that added another layer of subplots and interesting things to the game. So we got a couple questions. I want to start diving into the chat a little bit here. Would Narcitus be in the new evil book from Tasha's? I enjoyed the video that dropped today. Definitely, I feel like that is something that could have been worked into Ted's campaign. Because there were definitely things that we had to do to get more information, and that would have been a place to look. So yeah, anything from the abyss that kind of works with. Double underscore again with would you lump in Covens with cultists? I enjoyed the druid witch interpretation. So I feel like the coven would be this at the center of a cult, and they actually start the cult, right? Like you're, and that goes back into like we're saying, like just because you have a cult doesn't mean like anyone you can put an amulet or a robe on, right, could become the cultist. Well, you could have the coven at the center, right, and they could be more powerful spellcasters, and they actually are doing the recruiting, getting the cultists to join, and and then directly above them could be like a covey of hags, right? If you kind of wanted to take it in that direction, where the hags have basically built out this organization in layers in order to infiltrate civilization, in order to work their foul plots. So I think that's definitely a way that you could go.
The other thing that you could, really look at, is um the fact that when you're talking about a coven of hags, like they could just be trying to subvert these humans or these humanoids for their own gain. Maybe maybe it's not really some greater being that these things are following, but they're just trying to like offer up power, maybe even sacrifices to these hags without really knowing what they're doing. They've just been, you know, magically or physically manipulated to doing this stuff. And like, hags are intelligent foes. They're going to use all the types of manipulation that they can, being shapeshifters and magic wielders. It's pretty awesome.
Well,
uh,
what the best part about hags is, like Volo's Guide to Monsters does a great job of laying out hags. And like the gist of the hag is they don't have to do anything and they know it. Like they know that people know that making deals with them is a terrible idea. And they still don't really have to incentivize people to do it because people will be hard on their luck and make these terrible deals anyway. And that's the beauty of the hag. They know all they have to do is wait.
Yep. And they've got time to wait. But you know what? They're still gonna plot, they're still gonna scheme because that's what they do. um, so really you can go in any which direction. And that kind of concept, goes away from the coven as well. You could have any individual that is directing your cult could literally just be like, okay, we're gonna we're going to call it X and we're going to worship this thing, this idol, and it might be to, Cthulhu, or it might be something else, but the idea is to just, subvert the individuals and to harness power for whatever nefarious ends that you're looking to do. And it's a great, you know, it's a great diversion. It's a great, switcheroo on your players when they think, oh, we're going to face Cthulhu at some point in time, and it has nothing to do with that, but it's just this individual, and maybe the item is a transference of power, and all of the worship and all of the sacrifices is going to the cult leader, not to an outsider.
Yeah. So like, first of all, Christopher Keller, um, the idea of cultists, kind of dark apostles, creep into a small town and sell the villagers on bringing a better tomorrow, which is perfect. To like that's awesome, insidious, way to insert them into your game where maybe they start off by helping people, right? Like, they're handing out food and helping the homeless, and it becomes really insidious, and like they're an evil cult that serves an evil deity, but they're actually doing more good than like the local politicians or the people in power, right? So they're kind of, and even maybe the church, right? So that they begin subverting the will of the people, and you can slowly entice them away. Now, me and Ted were talking beforehand. We both own this book, Demon Cults and Secret Societies. At this point, we would normally link it over on Amazon for an affiliate link, so we could earn a commission. But sadly, I could not find one reasonably priced over there. So you're gonna have to go to Kobold Press if you want one. There's 13 cults in here.
How appropriate.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I don't think that was an accident. And basically, you can just drop them in to your game, and you don't even have to really do much extra work. So a lot of the work's done for you. So there's like all kinds of spells and monsters, NPCs. There's like, I think a paladin subclass or two, poisons I think I saw in there. So there's a lot of things that are kind of flavored that way, where you can just be like, yep, here we go. And now you might just have your campaign that's kind of written for you. Where were we going? Was it when we went out to LA that you brought that book and were looking for inspiration?
I don't know whether that was LA, whether that was on the cruise, or whether that was to Concoction, but it was all like, in that kind of year.
I feel like it was we flew, and you had that book with you, and you're like, I gotta come up with something, and I don't know where. I think I backed the Kickstarter. I think that's where mine came from.
Mm-hmm.
But I was pretty much like sold on the cover art. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, Kobold Press puts out, really fantastic stuff. We've been a follower, a supporter of theirs, pretty much from the beginning. So I definitely enjoyed the book. I've used, quite a bit from it. I recommend it if you're going to use, cults, and you can use the information that's in there, and again, as with everything, tweak and twist it, to best suit your needs. But it's a good jumping off point if you're looking for just drop in content.
And we also, it's not up yet, but we shot a video about using cultists as a background, right? And I was kind of surprised that it isn't one. Maybe it is somewhere else, but in any of the stuff that we have, and nothing official, did we see a place where it is a one. And we even kind of like look at, and compare the differences between an acolyte and a cultist. So kind of explore the idea that it might be kind of fun to play a character that's actually been in a cult and deprogrammed, or maybe you're still in the cult and you're out adventuring as well, and maybe you have some goals that might be at odds with what the rest of the party is trying to do.
And I don't know if I said this in the video or not, but it sparked my imagination. That usually we see cultists on the other side of that GM screen, but the concept of playing, a darker character that, or a character who has this darker past. Maybe they're hiding from it, or maybe they're still a part of it. And, you try to bring the other players around, to this, cultist idea, could be a lot of fun, especially over like a smaller campaign arc. So it's definitely a thought that's percolating, in my brain.
You've tried everything. There's nothing left. We have cookies.
Come to the dark side. We have cookies.
I'm in.
So as always, guys, if you have any questions, throw question in front of it so we can
Pick them out.
pick them out. Um, other than that, as stated, it's very very fun to just kind of take the concept of a cult and put the just a set modification to um, to whatever stat block that you're using. Even if it's something as small as, oh, we're a snake worshiping, cult, so we all use venom, and we all have, either resistance or immunity to poison because we went through all of this process to, get resistance to this particular poison. So just having that kind of fun tweak can be enjoyable and extra challenging for whatever it is that the players are facing.
Yeah, Christopher mentioned about he thought there was a cult background in one of the adventures. I don't think so because when I mean, we just look everything up on D&D Beyond anymore, and I don't think I saw anything when I pulled it up, and I couldn't imagine that it wouldn't have made its way on the D&D Beyond if it was in one of the books.
He's saying it's in hot DQ, so I'm gonna look it up.
Like I said, I'm going to say D&D Beyond did not fail me, and if it is not in there, it does not exist.
So there is a section that says background and has cult organization, but it does not actually have a background.
So it's like an organization more than.
So yeah, the Cult of the Dragon is organized in cells, which vary in size from just a handful of members to scores. Leaders in the cult are known as the Wearers of Purple and the outranked normal cultists, but no formal grades exist within the ranks of the Wearers of Purple. But it's like two more paragraphs, but it doesn't actually give the breakdown of how to use the cult as a background, even though it's got cult and background on the same page.
Yeah, it's almost like they're taunting us. So Ted, you ran, as we said, you ran a game that started with a cult and cultists, basically from level 1 or level 2, and actually I think it was right from level 1. I mean, I think we rescued people that were being sacrificed or tortured or something, and accidentally completed the ritual. So apparently, listen, my fellow nerds, a piece of advice: if you're ever disrupting a ritual to a blood demon or god, you should probably not kill and murder things in the space the ritual is being enacted on, because apparently there's no fine details, no small print or anything about whose blood it has to be for this kind of stuff, and you just might actually be the ones to complete the ritual inadvertently.
Yeah, I thought that was, pretty darn clever on my side. I occasionally get to, do fun things like that. Hey, you rescued the people, but you completed the ritual because people died on the area.
Yeah. Oops. So, what did you learn from running a cultist themed game for 5 years? And was there a point where you stopped thinking about it as blood cultists? Because I feel like for a very long time we were talking about blood cultists and about the town being overrun by blood cultists.
So, number one, like, it fully requires, player buy-in, and it fully requires, a constant escalation. Um, the game from almost moment one was set up in this cycle that you have got this boom town. So the idea was this place is supposed to keep growing. For whatever reason, that was the thing. So obviously people are being drawn to it. So I needed to have an element of what is the draw. And then I needed to have the escalation for it to make sense. So beyond humanoids, what other things are there? All right, so there's some monstrous humanoids that I can easily play with, and with having the idea of, again, a blood demon, to me, once you start going demonic, there's two monstrous humanoids that immediately jump out to me, and that was orcs and gnolls. Now, gnolls are usually linked to Yanagu, but they don't have to. They don't have to be, but they're in and of themselves linked to fiends. So I'm like, all right, I can use these guys pretty liberally. So I'm gonna make them be, the more midland level, and then I can then combine not only humans or humanoids, but also orcs and gnolls with other um, NPC templates to be able to have a variety of things. But it can't just be about fighting humanoids and fiends. There's got to be other things. So I wanted to incorporate a number of elements, that fall into that typical D&D, trope of, well, you're going to have to, leave your sanctum and go acquire knowledge and acquire, this reagent or, this thing here. Number
MacGuffins. We
one,
had to go get the MacGuffins.
you had to get the MacGuffins. Number one, that would allow you to encounter other types of adversaries that were not linked to your main plot thread. Would allow you guys to meet other characters of the world. Um, you know, but as long as the characters and the players were continuing to buy into the story, I was willing to, keep that plot thread going. Um, and I know at one point in time it was a discussion of, like, how far in are you guys into this? Are you looking to actually go fight this demon lord, or, like, are you just looking to try and stop the threat on this plane? And I was prepared for a number of things. I was prepared for, like, a 4 or 5 second, slog through the abyss to see what that was going to look like. And, I was looking at, the possibility of having, um, you know, challenged, 10 to 12 demons that were going to function as minions that you guys would just kind of, like, plow through because you had some kind of blessing on you. But you're like, no, we need to do this and we need to do that, and we're gonna go, like, right to him. So, like, I had avenues that could have been broached, but because of the way you guys, like, thought about the problem and how you wanted to seek the end, I'm like, okay, well, this is the path to go. So, like, you literally, got through Narkidas's half orc son or orc son, the blood of Narkidas. So you literally created a teleportation directly to his inner sanctum, which, wound up being an entire session sprawling fight that, I used the Heroescape lava tiles, and, I had some towers that were casting spells against you guys.
If only Dwarven Forge would have come out with their Hellscape one year sooner.
If they would have come out years sooner and I could have dropped a $1,000 on it, yeah,
It would
um,
have been perfect.
that would have been perfect. But alas, that was not the case.
I
I
think you did pick up some scatter from that.
I I I pick up. I love Dwarven Forge. Their stuff is great. To get not only enough of their stuff to use regularly, I don't have the space for it at the moment. So I get their scatter, and I've got, quite a lot on order, and I've already got some here, but I do have a couple of the Hellscape pieces that I will use at some point in time.
So yeah, I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Well, while you think about that, let's jump into I think I don't know if that's double underscore or single underscore. Um my eyes are wonky and the glare is weird, but it says who's more like a cult leader, Magneto or Apocalypse? What's your least favorite class for any variety of reasons? Mine is the Rogue. All right, well that's two separate things.
Yeah, I was going to say why not both, but honestly, Apocalypse is kind of like a god type figure, so I think Magneto is more of the cult leader with
Let's see,
his evil brotherhood.
I would go the other direction. Now I will bow to your comic knowledge here because you certainly know a lot more than I do. I read a lot of X-Men, but most of my recollection these days come from
Yeah.
the screen, not the actual lifting from the pages of the books. Um, but Apocalypse seems to be a central figurehead that wants everyone to do as he says, whereas Magneto tends to kind of you know lead more by example and demonstrate that this is the way things should be. So like the outward message I think makes Apocalypse more cultish than Magneto.
Yeah, I guess my only thing is like Apocalypse was worshipped as a god throughout the ages. So like I almost feel like it puts him a step above the cult leader. Like cults would spring up around him. He wouldn't lead the cults. It was what I'm thinking. And
Sure.
Magneto kind of formed his mutant coalition cult. But I mean, either kind of work. Least favorite D&D class.
For that I really don't have one. Like I enjoy playing all of them. I think the warlock, and I'm not saying the warlock is bad. The warlock is the one that just stands out as the most different. And that's not just because we're talking about cults and warlocks make a good addition to cults. Um, so like there's nothing that I wouldn't play. There's nothing that I feel is, you know, truly underpowered or under themed. Um, and I try to make a nice variety of the characters that I play. So I really don't have a least favorite.
Yeah, I mean it's really hard. I feel like I've played all the classes to some extent or another. You know, just not having enough time with any of them. For me, yeah, for me it would be like a toss up between the rogue or the warlock. Like the warlock is the least mechanically interesting to me. Um, the rogue is just too damn good, right? It's the only class where if you were to go like I'm going to play a super gritty game, and the rogue is and you use the gritty options, and they're like a long rest is a week, and the rogue is the only one's like whatever. Like all of my abilities pretty much work all the time
Right.
from round to round, so it like they're the least affected.
Not
Um,
having spell slots and not having, really features that use up, they can always get their sneak, which is, primarily what they're good at.
yeah,
Um,
but they get a lot of other stuff like evasion, uncanny dodge. Um,
but
you
those
know,
things those things are just like evasion always works. Along the same lines, you could go, fighter champion and like they're along the same lines. Like they don't really have
no, like still like your second wind and your action surge
well,
and some
second
of their
wind.
other abilities are still tied to the rest mechanic. Like they're great for short rest, but if you look at like the gritty rules where a short rest is a day and like a long rest is a week,
Mhm.
like you're gonna feel that. You're gonna like, okay, I action surge for the day, that's done. I did my bonus action second wind for the day, that's done. Where the rogue is like, nope, stabby stabby all day long. I'm an expert. I'm halving the damage. I'm avoiding the damage. Like the rogue is like the ultimate class. That's why the your subclasses barely get anything added to them because the core rogue is so good.
I'm not gonna argue. I've played rogue characters, and I bucked the Unearthed Arcana for the class options, because like the rogue doesn't need the aim action, and only because it showed up in Tasha's did I finally relinquish the power and say, fine, you can have it, you can use it. um, but they didn't need it because they're already Uber, and
I'm just terrible at rolling dice, and I just need advantage all the time.
whatever, man.
Yeah.
You're gonna do
Actually, it came in super handy too. Like in the one encounter, like I was able to use it to get rid of disadvantage, so I could get my sneak attack.
right. And you
Um,
know what? Like, it's not that big a deal because
because I've
combat
seen you
is
roll dice, Dave. Good luck anyway. You're still gonna roll a 2 and a 3. Reliable talent is so good for me because like my skills are also bonkers, but I'm still gonna roll terrible. But at least there's still gonna be 19s and 20s because of reliable talent.
wow. I mean, that is what it is. But I mean, all those things rely on you know you know combat and the need for those things, and like that can be fun, but that's not the need of the game. I'm more into having fun with friends, so like that's another reason why I just I finally kowtowed to the book and said, all right, here you go, you can have it. I'm not gonna argue anymore.
We also don't have that many combats, so like
Well, last session was.
yeah, I mean, last session was, but I mean, on average, we don't have that many combats. Things were like more combat heavy. I would care less because it's not like, oh, we only had one combat and I sucked all combat.
I've been there,
Yeah.
dude. Spoiler alert. Season 2 of Dawnbringers, uh, Jake threw a black dragon against us, and I did squat the entire combat.
Yeah.
Everybody else brought it down. So like literally, the player before me in initiative killed it, and because of the way you know combat is supposed to work, we're talking about fractions of 6 seconds before it happens. So as the thing is falling down dying, I run up and smack it with a warhammer.
You're like, I killed it. I killed it. I saved you all.
I didn't claim the kill or anything like that, but I was like, I'm gonna hit it anyway. It was just because like I got short little dwarven legs, even though I was a barbarian at that point in time. uh you know but like it was comical the way the dragon was moving, the way the difficult terrain was getting in the way. I didn't really hit with any of my missile weapons. It was literally like the typical you know Gimli.
Paladins are awesome until it's like all the way over there.
Well, that's why you need a dwarven thrower, my friend,
Oh yeah, yeah, that would definitely help.
because
But
that's what
apparently, it sounds like it didn't help you, or you didn't
well,
have one yet.
I didn't have a dwarven thrower at that point.
Yeah.
But eventually I got Forge Fane. Uh, so that's all well and good. My +3 dwarven thrower that I can shrink down and turn either into a forging hammer or an anvil as I need. So it's a nice little weapon I got.
So Charles wants to know, how would you run a game where the players are in a cult?
Well, I like Christopher's idea of having two cults, and you're trying to subvert the other followers into your cult. Could be quite amusing. Having two nefarious things in town, and you've got this pseudo political, pseudo combat game where it's like, all right, you've got it's kind of like the beads in the bowls, and which one is stacking higher at the moment. And you could play it along those lines. But the other thing would be a very role play heavy type scenario where you're doing activities to try and get people in without scaring them away or bringing notice to what's going on. It could be a very dark and interesting game. Just just be careful you don't get too dark with those kind of happenings.
So I kind of thinking about it, right? And earlier, Christopher Keller brings up the idea of the Better Tomorrow cult, right? So hear me out. You don't tell the players they're in a cult, but they're all in the same religion that's being persecuted by the town or city they live in. So they have to keep it a secret, right? And what they're trying to do is bring a better tomorrow. Like, I love the idea of trying to like work in the idea that they're cultists, but they don't know they're cultists. They just believe they're part of this like religion that's being persecuted, and they're on the lower tiers of the cult, so they don't know the inner workings yet. And the the more nefarious things that the cult gets up to, like they're still in the better tomorrow aspect of it. And like as they slowly get initiated deeper into the cult, they get a little bit more information. So for me as the GM, it would be fun to see at what point they realize, wait a minute, we're cultists.
Wow, that's pretty darn ridiculous. Um, I it's but a spoiler at this point in time. But I think that would be a fun stream game.
Oh yeah, that would definitely be a fun stream goal game where we don't really tell people what's going on and you don't tell the players. And it'd be awesome to have like just the one player that knew all along and they're like, what do you mean? That's what I signed up for.
Well, that's it's always fantastic when you've got some people that are in the know and some people that are not. Um,
You
you
could
know,
even like hypnotoad most of the party, like as part of like the laying the foundation, the backstory of the game, and they've kind of been programmed,
wow, wow.
complete with actual hypnotoad.
Well, I mean, you could do the Futurama Hypnotoad, or you could have you know, the spiked potion, or spiked punch. You know,
Yeah.
don't drink the Kool Aid.
Well, like the whole hypnotoad thing would be kind of hilarious in the sense that like maybe the one player actually sees like what really is there, but they're there for it. So, but everyone else is under the sway of the hypnotoad. So, like they're seeing something else. They're seeing this glorious leader person that's charismatic and seems to be righteous and beautiful, but really it is the hypnotoad.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like no one joins a cult thinking this is a cult. They're joining it, for whatever reason. I mean, if you want to go, super nerdy, look at the uh the 1990s movie of the Ninja Turtles, where like the street kids are joining the Foot Clan, you
Yeah.
know because they don't have a place where they can call their own. They don't have people who care for them, you
I was
know
just lonely. Now I'm a ninja.
and they're brought into this place by a cult leader, and he gives them everything that they're looking for, and all you need is just that kind of catalyst. So regardless of whatever the problem is, this cult is the solution to what that is. So you go from there and you build up, and you're in a major city. Oh, well, maybe there's a food shortage. Well, maybe the cold is the reason for the food shortage, because they're stealing it all to feed it to the people who have joined their cult because they're hungry. One begets the other, so it's great. Other times, it's something where the cult leader stumbles upon a problem, finds the solution, and uses that as the catalyst to get more people. But the people who join the cult, they're looking to solve some kind of an issue. and they don't see it as, oh well, I'm initially going in to sacrifice my neighbors and to line the streets with blood. It doesn't start off that way. So like I don't know all the steps in between, but you got to start somewhere, and that these influential members can do that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like no one was pitching Guyana like with just come hang out with us and eventually we're going to drink Kool-Aid with poison in it and all die. They leave. That's definitely in the last page of the brochure that no one ever reads. There's a couple questions. Charles, are all religions cults with good publicity? I don't know. I'll let you guys decide. Can be insensitive and a bit of an ass, so I won't address that. Doug uses the cult of the devourer, a frequently component in early adventures in his world. And Doug also difference between a cult and a religion about 100 years. I'm not going to say that's not accurate. And also, those the victors rewrite history, so it is whatever they say it is.
You can make your own choices in this world. Religious topics can get very very sensitive. I was not going to read that question, but of course Dave decides to.
I'm not going to answer it though. There, see, that's me
Wow.
being tactful and using diplomacy. But yeah, like, hey, I'm pretty impressed. We've been on topic for like 40 plus minutes.
Yeah, I can. That's not exactly the standard here on these hour-long chats.
I can't actually believe we haven't done cults and cultists yet as a live chat, because it's kind of like a fun topic. I feel like I think we owe it to Hexbound. That kind of gave me the idea, because I was like, they sponsored a handful of videos with us.
The witchy supplement for 5e.
Yeah, the witchy supplement for 5e. And which really got me to thinking about stuff, and like that's why we did the druid video, because we started talking about like what would a witch be in 5e? Do we need one? And then which from that, Doug is like, we don't need witches, we got druids. It's about the same, right? And which is probably like depending on what kind of witch, right? Like if you're talking about Wiccan kind of religious, it is kind of close. And then when we were having this conversation, Robin was involved, and they were like, well, druids turn into things, and witches turn other people into things, right? If you're looking at more like the fairy tale kind of witch. I'm like, what if you've weaponized wild shape? So really from that Kickstarter, we've had like a bunch of like fun ideas to now explore.
Indeed. But speaking of, doing some exploring, Doug says a little too devoted to the topic.
We're in a cult about cults.
And, as this is the last Monday of the month, next week, Dave and Doug will be back. So we'll have to wait until a little bit later to find out what next month's giveaway is. But if you want to get in on it, I'm gonna pull up the box.
Oh no, it's a big box if I recall.
It's weighty.
Maybe it's not a big box. I don't know.
You're just talking. It's heavy. So you're gonna get a copy of the No Prep Game Master, copy of the North Road. There's a stack of mini modules, by Goodman Games, Frog God Games, Troll Lord Games, and Nomad Gaming. Got a copy of Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and from our friends over at Kobold Press, Empire of Ghouls. So definitely some culty stuff kind of there. So be on the lookout, for all of that.
I now feel kind of obligated to tell people how they can how they can do it. So we are definitely not going to randomly draw names from our Patreon, because we're not supposed to. We can't do that anymore, or we can't say that anymore. But we do have a newsletter if you sign up for that. We will gladly draw your name from that. Or there's another way over on our website where we have a form that you can fill out. You can print out, fill out, and snail mail it to us to get in for that month's giveaway. Obviously, well, I mean it's close. It might get to us on time. We don't
You
have many days left in this month.
from what my experience at this point in time, PO box deliveries have been slow in some areas. Um, but the person or persons who religiously, send theirs, I do get them, every month. And I'm not going to say whether or not, one or more of those people are in the chat tonight.
So yeah, definitely, for sure. So yeah, definitely sign up for the newsletter. Also, we do if you're not signed up to the newsletter, like we do more content over there. Like each week, me, Ted, and Doug each write a section of the newsletter, and sometimes we create things right for your game to put in there. Sometimes we kind of just conceptually talk about things, and other times it might be somewhere's in between.
Yeah, I've already got, like usually by the time I'm talking about it, I've already done my writing. And this one I haven't, mainly because I thought we were going to talk about a different topic, and I thought I already had it done. I was just going to copy some work I created, but I got a switcheroo done on me that I missed. So it's like, oh, I found out today that we're talking about Colts. I'm like, all right, well,
Oops.
oh, well, that's on me, nobody else.
I was wondering, did I jump the gun and tell him the wrong thing too soon?
No, Doug had thrown out a topic, and I'm like, great, I've got some stuff that I can, copy from, my current game that will allow me to just write a brief little intro and toss this in there. Great.
Oh,
Um, but alas, that was not the case. We're talking about Colts instead. So I'm like, okay, all right, well, I'm just gonna have to. I've already got an idea of what I'm gonna do. I just need to actually do it. Um, I will jump in the chat. William is still waiting for the battle map of Ted's basement. Right now, it's an absolute disaster area of boxes, crafting supplies, and what have you.
sounds like difficult terrain to me.
It is definitely difficult terrain down here. Um, I would be very embarrassed to have anyone over, but it's COVID, so no one's coming over for quite some time. So um, if it
So no
were
no cartographers right now.
no, I in fact behind my computer here, I have a building in progress that uh, Dave and I went on another person's chat or stream, and we're like, oh, you do crafting, I do crafting, we should do a craft exchange. So I'm
Uh,
building a oh, I don't want to give it away in case they wind up watching this, but I've got a building behind that is in progress. Progress is slow because I'm not used to making buildings, but it's going to be pretty cool.
so did you pick the thing to craft, or does the other person pick?
Scott picked it.
Okay, and is that from the Dungeon Master Dojo?
And it is indeed. I didn't want to misquote the name, and I'm like, is it DM Dojo or Dungeon Master Dojo?
Dungeon Master Dojo podcast that we were on a little while ago, and I think it's dropping tomorrow or tonight at midnight. I don't know. They sent me an email, so I'll grab the link once we have it, and I will share it out for people to check out. They invited us over there. We chatted with them for a while, and then I was also over on Jeremy's channel,
Erasmus Expeditions.
Erasmus Expedition, last Friday for his help action, which was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, Jeremy's a not only a great guy, but he's a great GM and a great player. If you follow me over on the Dawnbringers, he plays my character's cousin and the bearer of the legendary magic item that my character created.
Ooh, what is the name of that item?
Well, the character had the named weapon, and it was called Gerta. Um, well, through the magical creation process, since both of our characters are barbarian path of the ancients. Um, During the process of the magical enchantment, I had him rage, and the players kept damaging him to keep his rage going,
Uh,
so that I could actually communicate with his ancestors. And I asked if any wished to inhabit the weapon, and we found out that his daughter, who had passed away, was one of the ancestors, and Brielne now inhabits Gertha, so it's Gertha Brielne.
oh, that's pretty cool. Was it just a regular weapon before?
It was just a regular maul
Uh,
beforehand, and it is now a +3 legendary weapon.
so he beats things to death with his daughter.
Yes.
Gotcha. That's definitely interesting.
It's it was awesome. And they're gonna, Jake is actually getting art commissioned for, the weapon. And I kind of just had come up with a ritual, that I had been working on for a while, to kind of create this thing, without, like, I wasn't creating mechanically. I just created what it looked like visually.
Mhm.
And he kind of took all of those story elements and is like, all right, I'm gonna do this thing here. So stay tuned for what that is, because it's going to get shared out at some point in time.
Is that going to be one of the magic item cards that we do over
Indeed.
on the Patreon?
Indeed.
The print and plays. Um, who came up with the idea for the rage and ancestors?
Oh, it's all me.
That was a pretty cool idea.
Yeah,
Um,
I wanted to incorporate. I love making sentient magic items. I think they're a blast, and they add another another character to the game. And Dawnbringers is actually kind of like dropped down in players. I mean, we had as many as 7 players at one point in time.
that's a lot of players on a stream game.
Yeah, we're down to 5 players.
Oh
Um,
no, who'd you lose?
Scotty left the game, and um, M had left for a little while to do a real world exploring.
Yeah,
Uh,
she's like Indiana Jones or something. They're like
yeah, they,
Indiana
they they
Jones.
were doing a paleontology kind of deal out in the woods of Canada. Um, and meanwhile, Jake's son had stepped in and took their place. Um, so once M came back, we had a session where M and Zach were there. Um, but Zach had left, and we were down to 5. So it's
It's a good
interesting.
number. It's a good number for a stream game.
Oh yeah. Um, but I wanted the option. So as I started coming up with formulae, like, my character totally worships the god of forging, I should do something about that.
I should forge something.
I came up, with the idea. I met with Jeremy and Jake after the game one session, and I'm like, here's my idea. Are you guys on board with this or not? And they were on board for moment one, and it was just a matter of when we could make this happen. And I kind of took over a guy's forge out in the Lonely Wood, in uh, out in Icewind Dale, and over the course of 3 days, I did the smithing modifications and then the magical enchantments. And I know that's super fast tracking for um, typical D&D enchantments, but hey, it's what the DM allowed, and it was absolutely a fabulous process.
It's probably just a It's probably just a um Icewind Dale thing. I mean, like Bruno just read a scroll or something, right?
So William is telling me to email him. Um,
Do you
do I
have his
have your
email?
do I have your email, William? Um,
You can email Ted at nerdarchy.com or nerdarchy, yeah, Ted at nerdarchy.com and reach out to him that way.
Indeed, I don't know what I'm being asked to email you about, but please feel free to reach out. We can chat.
Oh, oh, you know what? You did email me. I'm sorry, William. I forgot to email you back. It came in, and then I got distracted, and then addressed it right away. I will dig up your email and respond to you for sure. But on that note, we are at that time. It's the hour mark. We're going to be back tomorrow night at this time, and we will be delving into the dungeon. I believe was it time to delve back into the dungeon.
Oh well, I mean, it's Dungeons and Delving, but this is episode 5 where
Oh, so we're
you
not
know
in the dungeon.
we're not into the dungeon. We'd ended last session with you guys approaching the locker room, as it's called, and
Yeah.
hearing raised voices. So apologies for us, not being able to, run the stream last week. We had some people without internet. We had some people who were, you know, not at their best. So we decided to take the week off.
Well, both it was so three of the 5 players were dealing with winter storms. So that was totally a thing. Um, and 2 of them were definitely having questionable internet at the time. So it's like, well, we will just have to wait. Matter of fact, hopefully, hopefully the internet is better by tomorrow for Robin because today we were in a meeting and there was a little bit of a struggle with the
Yeah,
interwebs.
Robin was there via phone as opposed to via computer. So we're going to try our best. Looking forward to tomorrow's game. Also on the channel, if you come by Friday night, we're gonna have episode 2 of Untraditionally Arcane with our non our wizards that are not of one of the 8 primary schools to investigate some magical mishaps and what have you. Looking forward to that as well. I'll be the GM in both instances. So yeah, if you want to see me have some fun with some awesome people, that's those are some games to check out.
Yeah, you can always go to the community tab of Nerdarchy or Nerdarchy Live, either one of our YouTube channels, and we have the schedule for the week for any of the live stuff we're doing, gameplays as well as our live chat guests. So you'll be able to check those out, and you can actually click the links and set the reminders so that you don't miss that stuff if you're into that. And with that, until next time, stay nerdy.
Nerdy.